Yeah. So it always when this happens, I always wonder when I'm actually live streaming. I'm sure we're live streaming now. So I'm going to say hello and welcome to another Inner Sanctum online group sessions with Karen Swain. And I have a very special guest with me today, Sandy Feltz from the US. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I met Sandy just this week, actually, just recently, through a wonderful person called Lee Chandler, who is starting a new podcast show called the Wise Old Soul Podcast, or Wise Old Soul, interviewing people like Sandy and others, New World teachers and mediums and psychics and all sorts of people. And so Lee met Sandy recently in a shop in Indiana, and they had a conversation, and Lee put Sandy on his show, which will be coming out soon in the next couple of weeks. So Sandy shared her story on that show. So we're not going to share Sandy's story tonight, maybe a little bit, but what we're going to do is we're having a party with spirit tonight. So one of our members from the Inner Sanctum has left the planet. Her name is Eris Rogue. Her former name, she changed her name from Kimberly Ann Holmes to Eris Rogue a couple of years ago. And she left the planet in December. And she wasn't a very healthy person. She'd had a lot of troubles in her life. But Shirley, one of our members, had said to me, I haven't heard from Eris for a while. I hope she hasn't transitioned. And because you don't want someone to transition, I'm sort of looking for her in spirit. And I'm like, can't find her. We can't find her in spirit. Because I'm thinking, no, because she had actually disappeared before. And I had thought she had transitioned then, but she hadn't. We found her. She said, no, I was just in rehab, or I was just in hospital, or I lost my phone, or something happened where she lost communication with us. So I was kind of hoping that was the same thing this time, even though she's joyously happy. So I wanted to do an honoring for her and others in spirit, because I woke up this morning and found out that a couple of other people that I know, one quite well, had transitioned, one last night, one the other day. And I was telling somebody that when I was putting my makeup on this morning, I had the whole party here. There was like a party in spirit. It's a crowded room tonight, Sandy. So, so Sandy and I connected because after Lee's podcast with Sandy, sharing her story, and you said some great stuff, One of the things that you said was how when you figured it out, becoming a medium, how easy it was. And I just loved that. And you said something else, which I was a little confused about. And after the podcast, I was thinking about it and I got this download. So I connected with Sandy and maybe we'll share that later, and said, oh, I got a message for you. And we started chatting. I had the beetroot boiling on the stove. I thought it'll just be a 5-minute conversation. I'll just relay the message. And then I'm sitting there smelling smoke going, someone's burning something, and realized it had been like an hour later or 2 hours later. Shirley's laughing. And the beetroot was burning as Sandy and I were yakking, talk. But I asked her to bring through Eris, and she did such an amazing job. And I thought I wanted to honor Eris again, do a live with Eris, and to showcase the wonderful Sandy and her fabulous talents today. And so that's what we're doing today. We're honoring Eris. So I want to honor you, Sandy, for saying yes to coming on, because she's a little nervous. This will only be her second time on camera doing something like this.
Yes. I do it for friends and family, and I have a few clients, but I'm on the verge of making this bigger. And I think you're helping me get over the nerves.
Definitely. In the discussion, we had a group discussion also. Was it last week? Yeah, last week, Shirley, honoring Eris, but it wasn't recorded and it wasn't live. And so many beautiful pearls came out. And I always say when we have our group discussions, gee, I wish I'd recorded that, because when beautiful pearls come out, beautiful teachings, I want the world to hear them, not just a couple of people that are online with me. And so hopefully those pearls will come out again tonight. And the same with when I was chatting to Sandy yesterday, some of the things that were coming out were just beautiful pearls. So hopefully pearls of wisdom, we can repeat those pearls today And I want to tell people a little bit about how I met Eris. Quite a few years ago, this email came in from this woman who was suffering. She was suffering, and everything, it was a long email with lots of emojis, lots of emojis, telling me all about her suffering and her pain and her sickness and just, woe is me. And I sent back some, responses, and she just kept, sometimes when you respond to people, it gives them permission to just fire off a million more emails telling you their life story and all about her suffering. And I said, would you like to have some sessions with me? No, she couldn't afford to have some sessions with me. And I thought, fair enough. So I did my best to relay some guidance. And I just got more and more emails with all the poor me pity party story. And just, she had just such a terrible time of it. And I thought to myself, I'm not a vibrational match to you, because I speak to deliberate creators, people who really want to know how to be the creators of their own reality, which means that they're willing to shift their story. They're willing to come out of their negative emotions or negative ideas about themselves and life to find a new perspective so that they can align their energy to source and to what they're wanting in their lives, including being psychic and connecting with people in spirit, which is a lot of what I do. And I didn't think Eris was up for that. So I said, I'm not your gal. I'm not your teacher. You've got to find somebody else that will want to, be sympathetic and listen to your story. She would not take no for an answer. She would not. She kept sending the emails. Do you want to come on camera, Shirley? She's laughing so much. Anyway, tell me if you do. She kept sending the emails. But over the years, the emails turned from woes me, poors me to love and light. And then she would just send me emails about how everything was beautiful. And she just shifted her perspective from fear to love. And bless her heart. And so she joined the inner sanctum. And again, for ages, she came on only in name. She would never put her microphone on or her video on. She would just participate as, which is something you said to me yesterday. She would participate by being behind the scenes. And then I convinced her one day to turn her mic on and her video on, that so we could see her. And most of the time when she was online, she was having tech problems and saying, I can't hear you, I can't get it, I'm muted. And she would talk and she was muted, and it was just chaos, wasn't it? It's just chaos, chaos, chaos. But bless her heart, there was this time when she was in trouble. So she was living in a tent in a trailer park at the time. She had no money and she was in trouble and she couldn't get up off the floor. And so she's talking to me in Australia and saying, Karen, I need some help. I need some help. And I said, is there no one you can call, Eris? Is there no one that can come to help you? And she said, no one. I said, no family members, no friends, nobody. And she insisted that there was just no one who would come to help her. And I thought, how do you arrive at that point where you're in trouble, you cannot get up off the floor, and you feel like nobody is there for you? Oh, my heart went out to her. My heart went out to her. But I can imagine that through the many traumas of her life, that she had reached out to a lot of people for help, a lot. And maybe they just got sick of it. I don't know. Maybe they were just over it. So I felt helpless here in Australia, and she's in the United States. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do? Because I couldn't do anything physically. So I said, all we can do is pray to the angels and ask them to send someone to help you. And she said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So we did that. And they did send someone. There was a young girl living in the trailer park who, maybe she came over to see the dog, but for whatever reason, she came over and she helped her. And that was beautiful. And that was beautiful. If you want to share some stories too, Shirley, I'd love you to share some stories about Eris. But
yeah, I wouldn't want to share too much to cloud the connection for Sandra, but the last time that Eris was on the floor and had no one and nowhere to go, it was actually through a network through the inner sanctum that we were able to get her into hospital. So she, one of our members who's in the States was able to, we tracked down the trailer park. She was able to put in a call to the trailer park, but unfortunately, she was evicted and then later dumped on the sidewalk because she had no home. to go to.
Wow.
So I don't want to tell you about her background, but you know, later at the end, perhaps we could share her obituary. Let's just say it was quite a accomplished member of society, and ended life in trailer parks and living in her car. So, but she knew how beautiful it was. And Karen, you said Michael Tamora is here, and she was all about meeting him, had actually channeled a message from him and then wrote it in the inner sanctum and erased it. So that would be really cool if we could find out what some of that's about. But I'll just stand back and
all right. I won't spotlight you then. So Sandy,
I'm happy to pop in at some time.
All right. So Sandy, is Eris saying anything to you now? Can I get off camera and spotlight you? Put you on the spot?
Sure. Well, she has, so I was telling Karen yesterday that normally I don't remember a lot from my sessions and that I don't dream a lot. And this morning from 5 o'clock to 7:30, Eris kept jumping into my sleep and laughing at me and saying, just wait, you think you don't dream, I'm going to make you remember this. And I was like, yesterday when I got through to her, she just kept, it was like I don't know if in movies where you've seen where like somebody's darting around in the woods and like they're hiding behind a tree and they giggle just as they slide off, and you see them just as like a flitting in the background. Well, that's kind of how she was yesterday. And she was laughing because she was having great fun. She said that in the last few years, she didn't get to run. She didn't get to be energetic. She didn't get to have a lot of fun. And so now that she could do it, she was going to take every opportunity to stir up a little sensation. She one of the things, like today, she said, watch what happens when I was dreaming or when I was sleeping. She said, just wait today. You'll see that they think I had technical difficulties. Now you'll have a problem. So that's why today I went through and tried the microphone and the lighting and everything and was like, they're great. And then tonight the microphone doesn't work and she was giggling, and I can't tell you what her giggle sounded like on this side, but it's like joyous. It's just so joyous. And she's thinking it's hysterical. And she said that your group, you, Karen, and your group came to her in her lowest moments and made her believe again in the world had kind of knocked her down. And she said she had her own fair share of blame to go with that, but you brought her back. And the fact that she was so determined to not let you get away without helping her, because she was so sure that you were her last chance to figure it out, to find the hope again. And you gave her that. And she was very humbled by it, because I don't know anything about her life really, but I know that she had it good, and that circumstances, and she says she's a lot to blame for it. A lot of bad choices, a lot of bad attitude. She said she had a lot of bad attitude that brought her down. Yeah. And it turned, I get the impression that she thought she had it made, and she didn't do that great with people that I feel like she was starting to come down. She expected people to come to her and do this or that. And she put a lot of expectation with when she hadn't given a lot back. And so she said, she learned a lot of lessons. She was humbled. And even after she learned her lessons, she quote unquote was stuck living those lessons, and we're being reminded again and again how she's like, okay, we're getting way too serious, but being reminded again and again that it all comes down to what you can do for each other, as to that makes you the great person, not what you accomplish in your life, like money or fame, but in what you can do to raise another human being. And she said she had to be lifted out from her despair. And she said she latched onto you for some reason. She just instantly felt like it. And she said that holy crap, I was going to get that woman to pay attention to me. And she said, and when it did, she said it was amazing that when it happened, my life I could start seeing good things again. And before I couldn't. And she said, all I could see was despair and sadness, how everybody had wronged me. And I didn't take any credit or blame for what I had done in my part of it. And through forcing you to talk to me, then she could see that it wasn't just the world had done it to her, that she had some ownership in it, and that meant she also had some ownership in seeing the better side. And so she says, okay, that's enough seriousness. Can we get to some fun? She does want to stop and say, she said, before we go any further, I never, ever enough said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And she said, so I thank you. I honor you by coming through today, because, I always thought there'd be another minute, there'd be another time, but you know what? It just got to be too hard. And I decided that, okay, I learned a lot of lessons from this life. Now let's take those lessons. Let's find what the next adventure is, and let's apply the lessons and move on and upward from there, as opposed to have to relearn them. So her theory right now is, let's go, guys. I'm ready. And they're like, hold up, slow down. We need to get everything in order for you. And she's like, oh, I know my lessons. Let's go. And so she is eager to go, but I think I told you yesterday that she had to have a moment. Like, they're like, you'll know when we're all ready for you to move on, and so that you can go to the next thing. Because she said, I'm going to come in a hurricane, because it's going to be fair warning to the world that I have arrived. And this time I'm going to do it right, knowing that love and the impact you can make on different people are the most important part. And she goes, sure, but you got to eat. Sure, you got to have money to do this and that. But just think, you also have to have. She's like, I'm not starting from the very beginning this time. I'm going for it with what I learned. I'm taking it with me. And I made a deal that I'm not going to have to forget everything, even if it's going to be like intuitively. And I'm going to go forward, and I am going to be a storm. And she's ready to go.
She's going to be one of those star babies, that come in like with that remembrance, like she's made that decision. Something that you said to me yesterday, which I thought was so great, because I say this to people, all my clients and everyone in the group all the time ad nauseum, how easy it is to tune into your psychic abilities, right? With mediums like you and like me and like many people in the group, we think people have to reach out to other people to connect with their loved ones in spirit. And I had this lesson too from another friend who passed about 10 or 12 years ago. She said the same thing on the other side. She said to you, God, I didn't realize how psychic I was when I was human. Now I realize how I was and how easy it is, to like communicate with spirit, or, with your higher self or your guides or whoever, to communicate with different realms of existence or different frequencies. And I love that, how she said, and that's something you said with your podcast with Lee as well on Wise Old Soul. You said that when it started happening to you, you had this idea that being a medium or being psychic, you had to be special or different, or stand on your head and cross your legs and and swing from the chandeliers or whatever you need to do to order to tune in. And you just started receiving these thoughts like imagination, like thinking. And then when you tested those thoughts with other people, like you started saying, I'm getting this, and people said, yes, that's right. You thought, God, this is easy. And that's something that Eris said too, right?
Yeah, it's like you have to get yourself out of your own way.
Yeah.
If you can get out of your own way. And like I said, I thought I had to work, and I started out, when I started doing these things, that I would do for an hour meditation beforehand for like a half an hour session. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am putting so much time into this. And a friend of mine said, why? And what ended up proving it to me, like today, because this is a big deal for me, I was going to do this huge hour-and-a-half meditation, and I had all set, and reality set in when my toilet overflowed.
Don't you love
And,
reality?
and so as I'm cleaning it up and getting all the towels picked up and everything, I'm like, well, I'm assuming this is you guys' way of telling me I don't need to meditate for an hour and a half, because I had to clean up. And my husband looked at me and said, they could have done it in a less dramatic way.
They could.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I had this friend that transitioned a few years ago, Marie Knight. And I have another friend called Karen, and we were great pals, the three of us. Well, I'm still friends with, great pals with Karen. We traveled to South America together. We did tango together. We went to see John of God together, and then Marie got cancer and transitioned. And the two of them would say the same to me, how come it's, psychic, what's it all about, blah, blah, blah. And Karen, during a yoga class, actually, in the what do you call it when you lie down at the end? Who's a yoginini here? Who does yoga? Sannyasana, whatever it's called at the end, where you lie down. She said Marie came to her and stuck out her hand and said, let me show you how easy it is to be here with me in spirit. And she kind of pulled her consciousness, not really out of her body, but lifted her up and pulled her over. And there she was standing next to Marie, but she's still in her body and still conscious that she's on a yoga floor and that she's, doing a meditation, but she's here and there simultaneously. But Marie said the same thing. Let me show you how easy this is. And just kind of lifted her into that experience of like, here we are together. And I loved that story from Karen. Yeah, that, she thought it was something that she couldn't do either. Psychic is for the psychics, not for your normal people. And that's a message that I say a lot, that anyone can do this. You just have to find, get out of your way, like you say, Sandy, and find a frequency that's more of a match to their vibration so that you can hear, see, feel them. Yeah. Yeah. Eris is chiming in too. She's got a lot to say. It's like she wants to be a teacher, and she's like, you've got her accent perfectly. She's like, next time I'm going to be teaching. Actually, at the end of her life, rather than complaining about her lot, even though she was in huge pain and drama, every drama you can imagine, she was in trouble with the police, she was kicked out of hospital, she couldn't walk, and all sorts of things. She felt like she wanted to teach, and so she was trying to teach. Was it yoga, Shirley? She was trying to teach people yoga or breath work in the trailer park. Like she was doing her best to put herself out there as a teacher. And yeah, she says, that she's teaching from spirit, but she'll also come back and be a teacher. You're getting that too. So Brad had asked me in the group, what did Eris die from? And the message that she's, not important, what the physical thing is, but what I got was that I don't know what she died from, like the physical, like what happened physically in her body. And what she's saying to me is that when you've made a decision to leave, the body will do what it needs to do in order to like shut down, right? To die. So heart attack or whatever it is, it just does what it needs to do when you make a decision to. But all I know is that she made a decision to go. And then when I asked you yesterday, you said that same thing. You said, what did you say? Do you remember what you said? I wrote it down.
Life got to be too hard, and she was on to the next adventure. She had, when you asked that question just now, what she told me is choice. Yeah. What did she die from? Choice. And that doesn't necessarily mean suicide at all. It means that she was done. And she's like, that's it. And she said, like she said yesterday, onward and upward. She was all excited to start her next chapter. So she's like, this book is done. Let's go. So she's raring to go. I wish I had known her on this side, because I feel like she's such a different, uplifted spirit now that I don't know the difference. But it seems like from what you guys have said that it's so, but she's so energetic and so full of vim and vigor, and she's just going. And I just think I think she's exciting to talk to, much less I would love to know if I get to know her when she comes, like, will I get to see her on this side? Those are always the more you think, the more you worry about it, the more you think, "Ooh, what about that question?" And I just wonder, because I'd really like to meet her in person.
Yeah, I know. I know. She's saying, no, you probably wouldn't have liked to meet me in person. You probably would have judged me. This is what she's saying. And she's saying, as I was judged by so many, and this is something that you and I talked about. As I said, we had such a rich conversation again with the group last week. We were having, we're talking about judgment. So I've got a lot of people in my life that don't seem to be a vibrational match to what I teach or how I live my life. And then a friend of mine has said to me, why is this person in your life? She doesn't seem to kind of be a match to the way you teach and what. And I said, sometimes people come into your life as master souls, and they challenge every judgment you'll ever have. And and they're asking you to choose kindness and acceptance and compassion, rather than for them to be a match to who you are and what you believe and what you think and how you live your life. Sometimes they're the direct opposite. And I was telling Sandy yesterday that I had this wonderful man on the show called Dr. Leo. Oh God, what's his last name? Dr. Leo. It'll come in a minute. And he had a son that was mentally challenged, who died at 22 about 35 years ago. And being mentally challenged, he kind of pissed everybody off. And he would repeat himself constantly, and he would be nasty to people who were narcissists and really kind to people who were shy. He was this master soul inside this mentally challenged human being. And when he died, he came to Leo, Dr. Leo, and said, and started channeling to a man who's like a New York specialist, holistic doctor who didn't think he could do this psychic stuff and maybe never even thought about it. But he was out fishing or somewhere. He was out in nature, and he was in that really serene, beautiful sort of natural environment. And Christopher, his son, started channeling through him. And he channeled so much that he wrote a little book about it called Already Here or Already There. I always forget the name of it. But what he was saying was that when Leo was talking to him and saying, when I come to spirit, and Christopher said, what do you mean when you come to spirit? You're already here. You're not here and there. You're always here, and you extend a part of yourself into this environment to experience the physical, but you never leave this side. You're already here. And that was the name of the book. But being this master soul, he spoke about how being this mentally challenged boy was being masterful to the people around him because it was challenging their judgments and criticisms. And I feel like Eris was exactly the same. When you'd had enough of her, it means you'd hit your limit of judgment and criticism, and you just wanted to wipe yourself of somebody that was frustrating you and annoying you and asking so much from you. I said to my brother one time, he was upset about my father, who was a challenge. How many times do I need to forgive? I said, you need to forgive your father and stop holding on to this resentment and anger and sadness that you have around him not being there for you. And he says, how many times do I need to forgive my father? And I said, every time you get upset with him, every time. You need to forgive him every time. And he's like, it's like these people that annoy us and frustrate us and anger us, they're our teachers. Susan's agreeing. They're our teachers, aren't they? They are the master teachers in many ways.
Eris is telling me, she's like, see, I couldn't do it here on Earth. I couldn't do it there. So this is part of my next chapter. And this is why I get to come through tonight. This is why she got to have me remember my dreams, because she's like, you said you couldn't remember your dreams. Well, you remembered me, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, you're funny. You've got her energy, because she was like talking at a million miles an hour and she wouldn't make sense, and she'd talk over and people would get so frustrated and like, oh God, like she's so frustrating. But yeah, and these people that frustrate us, yeah, they challenge us to find compassion and ears to listen and hearts to open. Shirley, do you want to share anything?
Yeah, there's a few things.
Can I spotlight you? Can I spotlight you?
Sure, that's great.
There we go.
My hair, no, my mustache. How am I looking? Okay, so I fell asleep listening to the Tayuba prophecy last night, and I woke up when they were talking about humans needing evidence. You keep asking for evidence. You don't need evidence, and yet I said, Eris, if you're really there, I want you, because I took a screenshot at 111 and sent it to her. Whoever's managing her account right now was probably like, oh my goodness, right? But I said, could you have that come through if you're really there? And then the first thing she's talking about is 1111, right? And we all had technical difficulties getting on this call. I wanted to be a lurker in the background and maybe brush my hair. And all of a sudden, Karen, you're saying, I'm having technical difficulties, may not get a signal. Can somebody co-host? And I'm like, you did that, Eris, because she's telling me all the time, you're psychic. You're psychic. And I'm like, yeah, not really. And yet I knew she had crossed. I knew it. I knew it. And if she could have gotten back to me, she would have. There were a lot of 1111s she could have sent me. She never did. But then when I sent you the message, Karen, and said, I think she's crossed. But you were like, no, I didn't get that sense, because Eris was messing with you, of course. So I questioned, then I'm not psychic. It's
Right.
Yeah, and I doubted it. And so she said, there you see, see how easy it is. You just, yeah. So I think
easy to doubt yourself. Yeah, when I was talking to Lee, I was getting Lee to tune in because I've got a lot of, psychic people that I know. And I got this message, I'm close to death. It was like a whisper, but I'm not quite there yet. And she'd been long gone by that stage. And I'm like, and when I found her in spirit, I said, what was that all about? Why did I get that message? And she laughed and she said,
Sandra's got it.
I was messing with you. I was messing with you. But she said what was really interesting, she was loving watching me look for her psychically. She was loving my mind get in the way because she had disappeared before. And she wasn't dead, and I was looking for her physically and psychically. She was loving that sleuth mind get in the way of actually letting go and tuning in, because as Sandy says, you just got to get out of the way and sort of empty your mind of questions, don't you? And that's why sometimes, all the time, it's easier to actually channel or connect to someone you don't know than it is to someone you do know, because you've got questions and you've got ideas about them. But when it's a perfect stranger, like when I said, tune into this, and Sandy just brings her through straight away, even exactly the way she used to speak.
Like
talks like her. I know. And I'm like, damn,
Like,
you good girl.
well, she's oh, this is going to be a weird thing to say, but she's easy because she's so present that she is like, really, this morning I woke up, I got out of bed because I was like, she's not going to let me sleep. And all day long, I said, okay, she kept butting in all day long going this or that. And I'm like, okay, if this is really you, then come through and say these things to me tonight during the session, because I don't have a pen and paper. I've got too much stuff to do. And so I, as you guys are talking, I'm like, okay, where are all those great things you were telling me today? She's like, we shall see. And I was like, wow, she's having way too much fun with this. Like, she is. And it's like, she goes, well, for so long, I couldn't get heard. I couldn't hear them. She goes, this way, I'm leading the talk tonight. I've got the floor and I can get the message. And I'm like, well, give it to us. We're happy for it.
You sound just like her when you do that. Doesn't she? She used like you're channeling her. Like, you sound just like her. Sherry's nodding too.
Diane has said in the chat, that's so Eris.
Awesome. She's lovely. And I don't know what she was like in life. I had a very close, my mother, when she had a few things in her life, when you were talking about judgments, and Eris is telling me I can tell the story because it's impertinent. So my mom we had the older generation, and my mom always lost patience with them. She's like, thank you, Diane. She's like, my mom would always go, oh my gosh, they're complaining about this again, and they won't do this and everything. And when my mom got sick at the end, everywhere that she had bone cancer was where one of the three relatives that wouldn't do this or that, that's where what their problems were. That's where she got bone cancer. And one day when we were trying to get her up off the bed, to go to a doctor's appointment, and I realized, she's like, oh, my shoulder, oh, my knee, oh, my hip. And I went, oh my God, all those are the things where Grandma, Aunt Dot, and Sister Andrew, they all those were the three people she complained about being, oh, and my mom always said, please don't let me live long enough to be this much of a pain in the ass to these people. And so as she's getting up and we got her up, I said, Mom, did you happen to realize that all the things that were wrong with the people who had lost, like you lost patience with them because of this injury or that injury? Do you realize that's everywhere where you have the bone cancer and the pain now? And she turned out to me and looked at me and said, oh yeah, God and I have already had that conversation. And yeah, I got it. Laughs on me. Real funny, God. And I went, ooh, I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna step back a little bit, Mom, just in case he's mad. But the lesson I learned from that is quit judging, do your best not to, because it seems like everything that you judge and somewhere along the line is going to come back around to haunt you. So whenever somebody's really annoying me or whatever, I always go, well, oh God, oh, they're great. God bless those people. And I try. And that's what Eris is saying, because you guys gave her that. Yeah, it may have been, oh, you're annoying or this at times, but she knew you always gave her that opportunity. And again, that is what she's humbled for and appreciative of. And that is your ability to give her that is one of the reasons she gets to come through so clearly and kindly and so strongly right now, is because you guys gave her that power and that grace.
Well, she was institutionalized for expressing her psychic or spiritual beliefs more than once. So
Oh my gosh.
she could not speak about it anywhere but with us. And you see, the thing is, I just think everybody talks about, like this all the time everywhere, and not. So I'm humbled to realize that some people have sanctuary in certain places, people, and to not take that lightly. To
Right.
appreciate that. Yeah. So it's no wonder that she's not going to stop talking right now. She has the opportunity to show her face, which had been very beautiful and acceptable over the years, and then not so. So she did hide. She hid her face. She hid her body. But she was full of vigor and dance and laughter. So I love that you got all that. So
she absolutely was. And I had Kristen. I don't know, is Kristen online tonight? Kristen from my group on. Oh, there you are. Hello, honey. I had Kristen on the show this week. Do you want to come up? Shall I spotlight you? Yes. Yep. Okay. Adding spotlight. Hi, darling. Yeah, I had Kristen on the show this week, and we were speaking about her husband that passed and how she was doing Reiki on him and the miracle. Everyone's looking for a miracle. And I had a friend just pass last night who had cancer, the most beautiful, joyous person. And we were speaking about how the miracle is not that you survive death, that you don't die. The miracle is what happens during this life. And the miracle for Andrew, Kristen's husband, was this shift in perspective from fear to love. And when I say fear, from that sort of dogmatic religious belief to opening his mind and accepting and allowing, like you say, Shirley, allowing this sort of spiritual, psychic understanding and energy healing stuff in. And it was the same with Eris, like she said to you, Sandy. She was very critical and judgmental. I need to shut the window. And blaming others. And the miracle for her life was the same. She had this shift from complaining about everything to loving everything. And I want to just read to you her last post. It's going to make me cry. It was probably a day or hours before she transitioned. And it says, "It's amazing how grateful I feel for every single thing. The teepee tent was fun and an adventure for sure, but today I love the front door." She was just in so much gratitude at the time that she left. I'm going to take myself off.
The last voice message I got from her, she was actually filling her bathtub. She hadn't had the ability to have a bath. She'd been living she'd set up a tent city and a hurricane would come and blow it down. Like she was just like, it was like she signed up for every disaster, adventure, calamity going. Like, I don't know what kind of soul comes in and signs up for all of that.
Yeah, she did. She put a lot on her plate, didn't she?
And the thing is, she came across as a real kook, and people would just be like, whoa, okay, I'll just sit over here, sister. And, you just technical difficulties. Okay. But she'd come and tap on you, and she's doing to you now.
Yeah, and that's what I say about master souls. Not master souls. We were talking about, homeless people can be master souls. Those people that we want to judge and get away and don't come near me. And like Garnet Schulhauser, who Kristen and I were yakking about on our show together, was contacted by a homeless man when he was woken up spiritually by his master spirit guide. And after 10 years of having this incredible communication and experiences with his master spirit guide, I asked Garnet a couple of years ago, does he still appear to you as the homeless man? He says every single time. It's like he didn't just appear as the homeless man, initially to sort of, I don't know, maybe for him to overcome his judgment, because he was at the time a well-heeled corporate conservative Catholic corporate lawyer who's stopped in the street by a homeless man, and he wants to sort of like shoo him away, but this homeless man's beaming love and light into his eyes, and he was this master soul who was contacting him. But yeah, he still appears to Garnet as the homeless man. So I think that that's a beautiful lesson that we all have, is this judgment thing. We talk about Christ consciousness as being unconditional love. And what is unconditional love? It means not judging and criticizing others for being different to you. Yeah. Kristen, do you want to say anything, darling?
I don't know what I would add completely, other than, talking about the miracle having that shift. I was just remembering that when Andrew, not long after he was diagnosed with cancer, he called me another time from a hotel, late at night traveling. And he said, oh, I just was woken up and I was so scared. I don't know what, I was just really scared. And he said that what came to mind was, there's a section in the book Dune about fear is the mind killer. And I think Andia is reminding me that, because I think she mentioned this once. But anyway, it's this whole liturgy called like fear is the mind killer. And it was this beautiful thing. And I said, well, why did that come to your mind? He goes, I don't know. It kind of helped me a little bit. And I said, I don't like all those words in there. The theme is good because it's to get you to not be afraid. But it was all these negative words, like fear is the mind killer or something like that. And I said, would you sit with me and just change the words? And I need to find what we changed it to, because he put it on his phone, and I have his phone, but I need to charge it and look at it. But we changed every word, like from fear to love and whatever. And it became his mantra and his chant for that last year of his life.
Nice.
Because he was open to that. But had it been months before that, he would have laughed me out of the room.
Right.
Laughed me out of the room.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that big shift. Yep. And you know what? He was a beautiful, amazing, dogmatic, challenging man for me. And we stayed married for 26 years because we loved each other fiercely. But, he taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for everything he taught me. And he says I taught him too. So, but I wouldn't have learned so much had he not been challenging.
Well, exactly. Gary Zukroff, and Diane has a great question here too. Do you want to come on camera, Diane? Where are you? Or just have me read your question. You've got your camera off.
Yeah, I know. If you could just read the question, that'd be great.
Gary Zukroff says that your soulmate is the one that presses all your buttons. It's not the one that you have the best time with. It's the one that presses all your buttons. So you said here, she did sign up for Everything Disaster. What are her thoughts on that now? Does she see it as a wild ride? And what is her learning around all the physical and energetic hurricanes she endured and survived? Good question. So Sandy, I'm going to.
Can I share?
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw the question come across, and instantly she's like, okay, here's the deal. when you're in the physical, you don't really realize that it is just a ride, that we are just here for the crash course in driving. And she's like, it's a roller coaster and you just don't realize. And she's very animated, but she's like, you just don't realize how big some of those drops are and how loop-de-loop your life becomes. And she said, and you know what? The first thing that happened when I got to my current residence is that I looked back and went, oh, all those were for fun? Oh, okay, I wish I had known to enjoy it more. And she's like, maybe it would have changed a few things, but some of the things, and she said, and then someone, and she said, this is how she puts it. And then someone reminded me that when you go down a roller coaster and you can't catch your breath and you're like screaming because it forces the air out, that's the hard points of life for you. So she's like, so as you, and her big takeaway is from this, oh, that's really pretty. Her big takeaway is, when you're going down that hill and you can't breathe and it just forces it out, the first thing you do to recover is catch your breath. And she's saying, catch your breath and enjoy the ride. And she said, I did try to make the best of it once you helped me turn myself around. Her extreme gratitude, I know she must be telling you it, but the gratitude she feels and the gratitude that she is, it makes my chest hurt. So like, I just want to like cry, and I'm not going to, because she's like, don't waste the tears. But she's like, but she said, once you allowed me to not become a victim and let me face my own reality, like the reality of what I played in this. And there were times I was not good to people because I didn't think I had to be. And you know what? I never had to be, but I should have been. And we all should be. And she said, so my big takeaways are, you're never too important. You're never more important than the person standing next to you, whether they're on the step above you, step below you, or 25 steps below you or above you. You are never more or less important. And the big thing is, catch your breath, breathe through it all, and show the kindness. You know how grateful you are when that ride is over and you're like, oh, I made it. She goes, I felt that. I did. And she said, and the only thing is they don't give out any like great participation awards. It's just that you got here. So that's the award itself. So she's like, I was expecting this. Woo, you came through so much hardship. And they said, yeah, and you signed up for it. That was your thing. And she said, and the one thing I didn't realize is that I agreed to be a lesson for so many others, right, so that maybe they wouldn't have to go through as much pain and as much crap as I did. And they could go, oh, all right, I saw her stuff. Nope. And she said, if you can just remember, she said, nobody wants to learn from other people's examples, but God, think how much easier life would be if we went, oh yeah, not taking that road. But she's loving it because she said, I literally got here going, whew, I survived, I'm good. And they're like, great. And she's like, what do I get? And they're like, you're here. And she said, oh yeah, I get to be here again. And that whole thing, she was laughing when you said they never, you were already here, but you just go back and visit. She said the instantaneous feeling was I was home. She said, and now I'm going to visit, and now I'm going to plan my path. And remember when I said that I thought she had red hair?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the things, and you sent me a picture of her, and it's brown, and there might be a tint to it, but not really. It was more brown. And I asked her about it this morning in my non-sleeping state, and she said, because I'm telling everybody I'm going to be a redhead. I'm going to be a redhead. I'm going to give fair warning to everybody who sees me. And I said, oh, you're going to be a redhead. She goes, yeah. And she said, I earned every one of those white hairs in my head, even though her hair was not all white. But she said, every strand was for a lesson I learned. And so I wanted, because I said I only saw white hair and red, and she kept saying red. So the red was because that's how she's coming back, baby. She's coming. She goes, I'm going to be fire engine red, and I am going to be their warning come. They're not going to miss me this time around. Nobody's going to miss me, but I'm also not going to miss myself. But she said the white was because she wanted to highlight that she earned every one of those white hairs through the trials and tribulations. So her takeaway is, you're never better or worse than anyone. No one's ever less or more than you. And if everyone treated everyone that way, everyone would be in a better off place. Yeah. So that's her takeaway from the wild ride she was on.
Wild ride. You know, there's a saying that you're either a shining example or a terrible warning.
Yes, yes, yes.
And they're both, they're both the same. A terrible warning can be a shining example, and a shining example can be a terrible warning. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, she's such a great soul. She's such a great soul. So you gals, I've got you spotlighted on camera. If you want to get off, just get off at any time. You know how to unspotlight yourself, don't you?
I think Sandra's made a new friend. I think you've made a new friend.
Oh yeah, Sandy's made a new friend. Hopefully she'll leave you alone and won't harass you more. Like in the movie, in the movie Ghost, where Whoopi Goldberg's got the guy in her head the whole time, like wouldn't leave her alone. That's funny. Anyway, do you know what? What?
Well, what I was going to say is, today, like this morning, usually I get up in the mornings and I do my gratitudes, and I kind of laze for like 5-7 minutes while I do my gratitudes. And I finally, this morning, I just went, fine, Eris, I will get up and I will do something. I made my bed. I was moving all through the day. Even when the toilet overflowed, I was like, really? There was nothing in there but paper. And I was like, how is this happening? And I heard her go, it's a wild ride, honey. It's a wild ride. And then she said, and this is not really a problem if you think about it. And I went, oh, yep, you're right. You're right. And I said, well, but I need to meditate. And she's like, would you just relax?
Yeah.
Just relax. We're going to be fine. And I went, oh, okay, hope so.
Yeah. There's a few questions I've got for Eris about the other side. As I said, I had a party while I was putting my makeup on, and spirit, it's like I felt like I had the whole gang here. Who's she with? Who's she visiting?
So she said, believe it or not, I'm with some of my family members. We made peace. And she said, it's like everything dissolved. Anything that mattered or that separated us, or she said, I was greeted with such love and so much just, it's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt this, but Susan, Ms. Guthrie, your family wants you to hear this. Your husband and your son wants you to hear this.
Can I bring Susan up? Susan, do you want to stay off camera? Where are you? Let me find you. Susan, do you want to come up on camera?
Sure.
Okay,
That's helpful.
Spotlight. There we go.
I just wanted to let you know that as soon as you told me you were widowed, I heard your husband come through and say, if we get a chance, can I take a minute to tell her that I love her and I'm with her every day? You don't have to feel as alone as you do. Just sit in peace. There's a place where you sit and you wonder what we would be doing now, or if he were here, or we could do this. And know that your son is mom. Please don't grieve. Please don't grieve. Remember our good times. Remember that we haven't left you. There's a whole party up here, Mom, of people that support you and love you and want you to smile again and laugh. Laugh would be a great gift to them. The one thing that I learned and I know I'm talking fast now, I'm sorry. The one thing that I learned through all of this is I had no idea. I was raised Catholic, and we always say, pray for the faithfully departed. And I used to think as a little kid, why? If they're faithfully departed, they're already there where they're supposed to be. Why do we have to pray for them? One thing I didn't realize is that when we pray for the faithfully departed, or speak to them, in other words, and reminisce with them and connect with them, we give them grace that allows them to ascend even just a little bit higher. So our grief can hold them back. And one of the things they want is they don't want you to be held back. And they're not worried about themselves being held back because they're in a great place, but they don't want you to be held back because you put your life on hold and you have gone into like you've cocooned yourself away from life. And they're like, stop it. You didn't come to this side yet. We did. And we're here to tell you that you got to enjoy while you're here, because then the more it's like the more you can enjoy here while you're here, because laughter is a gift God gave us. Joy is a gift that the universe gave us. And you're kind of not appreciating that right now. And I understand it's hard to hear that, and it's hard to go, okay, well, I'll just be laughing. They actually said, and I think this is funny, whenever I was told this once, that, okay, let me get this right. My mom always references Google, which was not around when she was alive. And I laugh when she goes, Google that. She always says, Google that shit. I'm like, okay. And she does. So your family, and it's more than your husband and your son. I feel like there's another person there that was very close to your heart that they're leaving really hurt you. And they're with you, but they just want you to find something that brings you joy. I don't know if you're in Maine, so it's still pretty wintry winter, right? So they're saying, do you watch the birds? Because the birds they send you birds. And they want you to know that when the birds come, that's them letting you know they're there. And the other thing is find joy in, if you have to, find a dumb comedy on YouTube or BritBox or Netflix or whatever, and something that's ridiculously silly, something that you just look and go, wow, that is so dumb, it's silly. That's the kind of joy they want you to have. Silly laughter, so that you can feel your heart is so closed right now, and they want you to open it again. And I'm sorry that I interrupted you because you were just peacefully listening. But they wanted, from the minute that you said you were a widow, I was like, oh, he goes, I just want, if I get a chance, I just want to say it. And he was really afraid that our time was up. So he's like, butt in, just please butt in, because I need to tell her. And he says, he doesn't want you to worry about how he passed. He felt no pain. And you worry about that. And your son's like, don't even worry about me. I was good. And they're not sharing anything other than that, but they want you to know that they were past worrying about feeling any pain, and you're the one that feels more pain than they did. So they want you to stop, because you need to embrace life again.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
And I will let you go with that. Your husband was very adamant that he needed to tell you, so I needed to butt in. Now I'm
Thank
sorry,
you
I
so
forgot
much.
where we were in the conversation. So,
Thanks,
Right,
Sandy.
Thank you.
Eris said, go ahead, you can go through. It's your turn.
Sorry, I'm having such tech difficulties. I'm totally kind of not navigating the restream. So I'm not getting any of the messages that are coming through on YouTube or Facebook. So sorry if I'm not getting any of your messages. And also, I don't know what's happened. The spotlighting's not working. So everybody that's got their camera on has actually been on camera on the streaming. So I hope you don't mind. It's only a few of you. People with their cameras off don't show up. Only people with their cameras on actually show up. So yeah, tech difficulties galore this morning. For me, morning, night for you
Eris
guys.
says you're welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks, Eris. Thanks, Eris.
She just wants everyone to show up in their authentic self and just claim it.
There you go,
Now
Shelley.
you know the problem she had with tech.
I know. I just can't get the restream. I can't get the restream up, because restream gives me all the messages in one place, but it's totally not coming up. So I can't get any of the messages from all the platforms. So that's that. But one thing I want to ask you, Eris, through Sandy, is communicating with somebody like Sandy or somebody like me or anybody. What's it like communicating from the other side? Like, what's the process for you? We've spoken about the process for us. Get out of the way. It's easy. Relax. Get out of your head. What's the process for people in spirit? Because you seem to be very proficient at chatting with, well, all of us, really.
Okay, so her statement is this. She goes, I don't know how everybody else comes through, but I came through going, okay, how do I get back to talk to everybody? I need to tell them I'm okay. I need to let them know, hey, this, she said, once I realized the whole roller coaster ride and I knew that I wanted to let them know, oh, you got to enjoy even the ups and the downs, even along with the ups. She's like, I said, all right, when's my next appointment? How can I get through to the sessions? And they said, hang on, just, she goes, the one thing they told me is patience are a virtue. You've seldom had patience. Now's the time to learn it. And she said, I don't have time for patience. They said, that's exactly why you have to learn it. And she's like, huh. So she said the first couple attempts that she made were kind of spotty. She said there was something at your house, Karen, that she was trying to make act up, and she couldn't figure out. There were one or two little things but you put it down to like nothing. Oh, that's weird. And nothing like that. Or, oh, the one time you said, okay, I know you're here. But who is this? Tell me this is not the usual person coming through. And she said, but I lost it. Because I was so excited that you noticed. She's like, I literally went, oh, and that was it. It was gone. And she said, I tried so hard. And then they said, practice makes perfect. Hang on for your next opportunity.
Well, that is so true. I've got to tell you, because I have strange things happening in my house all the time. I see lights all the time. And I just say hello. They're usually blue, sometimes gold, sometimes white, sometimes different colors, sometimes black. But I see them with my physical eyes. But there was one time, in the last few weeks where there was one that seemed quite unusual. I can't remember what color it was, but I remember saying, oh, who is that? And I didn't get it. I didn't get a thing. And then I went, because I see them all the time. They're there all the time. It's a party in my house, But yeah, there was an unusual one that I can't remember why it was unusual, but I remember myself asking who it was, where I rarely ask who it is. I just accept it.
And she said, but I lost she said, it's like learning a new skill that you haven't, you go, oh, I know how to do. Oh, well, I did know how to do it. And then she said, so in the last week, I have lost my keys 3 times, and then I will be searching. And when I get my spare keys and go out to my car, and I put my phone in my purse and I walk out to my car, and when I reach into my purse to get my phone to charge it, my keys are sitting on top of my phone. And Eris just said, you're welcome. She said, why do you think it took?
Yeah. Why do you think
we met?
Oh, you and I?
Yes. Right. She said, it took me a little bit to get you to meet.
Yeah. Yeah. That was you, Lee. See? Strange things happen. I want to ask this. I want to ask Eris through you this. So spirit moving things like keys and making things disappear and reappear, from Eris's perspective in spirit, how does that work?
You mean, how does it get done?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she says, you know how we're taught that words are power, and words are just thought put into vocal. She said, so I don't need the words now. I can think it and send it my energy. She goes, the first couple things just didn't work. She said, I tried to knock somebody's t-shirt off a bed, like they were folding their clothes. And I think it's you, Shirley, that she's trying to say, you were folding a shirt or something, and she was trying to, and you just went like this, and then it folded, and she's like, okay, well, that didn't work. But she came back, and later something was messed up with your shirt. Do you remember that? I think it's you, Shirley. Do you remember that? Okay. Because she's saying, I'm getting goosebumps, so I'm pretty sure it's right, Shirley.
It was my shirt that I had one of our members' paintings on. So it was the t-shirt with the logo that Brad Mossman painted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had shook it out a few times. Oh. Yeah.
But she said, so it's just, she said, so some people can do it instantaneously. She said, some people will have to be here a while. She said, I was raring to go. This was my next chapter. This I knew. She said, so I just said, all right, I'm going to learn how to do this. Tell me how to do this. And they said, it's always been your power. And she's like, they said, as soon as you were here, you could do it. And she said, they made me think like I was just going to be able to, she said, what I so badly wanted to do was appear in somebody's mirror when they were looking and go, hey, in the morning when they're putting on their makeup. And
Well,
she
thank
said,
God I don't
I
wear
want to
makeup.
scare the
Whew.
hell out of you guys.
Such lame-o.
She said, but apparently there are some rules about the fact that you can't scare everybody half to death. And she said, she said, they said, no, you're not doing that. So I got in trouble, but she said, it's not my first time, but here it was. And I went, oh, all right. And they said, you can only do little things. But she said,
That's funny.
what's amazing, she goes, it's the coolest thing because I thought I'd get caught in the middle of moving something. She goes, it doesn't happen that way. It's just there. And it's not, you don't, she goes, if you see something move, it's because we chose to let you see something move. She said, but like keys missing, like my keys, was it Thursday? It was after I talked with Lee, after I recorded with Lee, that my keys were missing, and literally they were on my dining room table, where my dining room table had nothing on it. They were there in the middle of the room 20 minutes later. And I was like, okay, that's not what my people usually do. Usually I find them in the sofa cushion or whatever. And she said, she didn't have to like if there was no way I would have been able to see them move through the air or whatever. She said that would be really cool, but that takes a little bit of skill. So instead I can just she said, I don't have eyeballs, but I can blink and I've got it moved.
Okay, I can blink like I dream of Jeannie. So she's basically thinking about what she wants to manifest in this reality, and it happens. So that with that kind of power, the spirit world has a lot of power over us then. So yeah, I guess there are rules. They've got to like live, like you can only do a few things. Because if they can think and our reality shifts, well, we think in our reality shifts too, but we're usually under the buffer of time. They're not under the buffer of time. So thinking and manifesting happens instantly for them. So when you said she blinks and it happens, it's kind of like she thinks it and it happens.
She says it's really cool when you don't have to use words to get your message across. Like everything that she's saying to me, she's like, I'm just going, well, and she goes, it's there. You've got my thought. And I was laughing because when I ask her for explanation or stuff, she's like, oh, you're slowing me down. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but she is, I really believe that she's got plans to, all right, I'll ask you a question because I asked her and she's like, I don't know, I'm still working on it. When a person reincarnates, is it always in the form of a child, a birth, or can they incarnate into?
Walk in.
Tell me.
Sheila Seppi here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, a part of your soul aspect can join the body when the body's an adult for sure, and doesn't have to go through the whole birthing childhood experience. I've had many people on the show. They call themselves walk-ins, and it's usually part of your soul. It's a part of your soul aspect. So it's a part of, because we're living our lives simultaneously, past, present, and future, lives on other planets, lives in different dimensions. It's all happening at once. So there's a part of your soul that's experiencing some other experience, some other world, dimension, place in history. And that that aspect can join you in this body. And so that sort of that heart, soul, I don't have words, but can join you into a physical body. And it's like you're here for the first time, like a baby. And that's called a walk-in. Yeah. So people describe it as a different soul, but it's all sort of combined up there in spirit. We see it as different.
I feel like that's her plan, because she's like, I'm not going to waste time as a child. I just want to get to where I can make the impact. And from what I feel from her, she's going to be quite capable of doing that very soon.
Okay.
Just slip on in.
Well, hopefully we'll know who it is. We'll get some walk-in on the show. I'll have to keep the show going for another couple of years. I was going to close it at the end of this year, but maybe I'll have to keep going because we might need to find Eris as the walk-in soul. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Red hair, you say? Red hair.
Yep,
coming
red
in
hair.
Hurricane. Because the hurricane, like people have these. I've got a friend who's a walk-in, and she tried to kill herself. She woke up in hospital and decided to go up to Byron Bay, She was in Sydney, and then she's like, for no reason, she goes up to Byron Bay, finds all the, the channelers and the hippies and the blah, 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 and starts channeling and changed her name and changed her appearance. And yeah, these walk-ins are so different to the people that they were before, like so different. So different. Yeah. So
Well, I think
watch out for you, Eris.
I think she will be interesting no matter what.
She will be interesting no matter what. That's exciting. That's really exciting. Walk-ins. Yeah, Angela says. I mean, sorry, Angela, for your new name. And Dana Sananda. Okay, so I have a friend, Kathy, who transitioned last night. Can I ask you just to see if, okay, I've got her. See if you've got anything Kathy wants to say?
All I feel when you say her name is that she's at peace, that she's peace, that there was strife at the end and that she has peace, and she wants you to know that she's at peace. And I have no regrets.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
That's exactly the message. That's exactly the message I wrote in, because I'm in another group called the Sinner Sisters. She was part of our other group. She was actually part of this group too, but she rarely came online. Kathy Newman, her name, is such a soul. And what did I write in the Sinner Sisters? Oh, maybe I wrote it to Caroline. But she said that, oh God, I can't remember, but that's what she said. She had no regrets. She said everything, she is appreciative for everything she went through, even though she had a lot of struggles. She sees the benefit in all of it now. Yeah, no regrets. Exactly. That's exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, if anybody else wants to, sorry,
peaceful.
go on. She's
just very peaceful. That's all. She's at such peace. It's just like Eris, I can feel her energy. And as soon as you said her name, it just was like, oh, I just relaxed. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. She was a joyous soul on earth, but just a beautiful soul, And the gorgeous Michael Tamora, who was a master teacher, he left his body. How long ago, Shirley? About a month or two ago?
It was a little longer than that. I was just
2 months ago?
listening to
I think it was October, because I was listening to that thing that was on the line there today.
Oh, was it October, Sherry? Yeah. Is he, can you tune into him? Sandy, am I putting you to work?
No. I thought I was getting sidetracked because for a minute I lost your audio. He says who I'm hearing, because he's not identifying himself. He says, so all the lessons and all of the teachings, he said, you know them and you learn them and you go with them. But when you get here, they all make so much more sense. And there's no struggling to understand the concept. It just is. It just is. And he's proud of the legacy he left, because he was told when he arrived, you have done your job and you've done your job beautifully.
There you go. That's a direct quote from him. That's one of the first things he said. He actually had 7 near-death experiences. That's one of the first things that happened to him when he had his first near-death experience. The guide said to him, you've done your job and you've done your job beautifully and you don't need to stay. And he said, can I make more of an impact physically incarnated or as a spirit guide? And they all resoundingly said, oh, as a physical. And so he came back and had lots of struggles. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, go on. I don't want to interrupt you. Go on. I'm interrupting.
So his statement is there's no greater gift than when you arrive for them to say that to you. And then he says, when I came this time, they said, are you finished this time? Are you going to be done this time? And he said, I'm happy to. And so they but it was, his thing is that his statement is you try to teach, you try to share, you try to make an inhuman concept acceptable to the human mind, and try to explain in a way that the human mind can grasp. And the second you step across that line, you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't so hard. He said, but now trying to explain it to somebody now, even now, it's just faith and trust. Just faith and trust, knowing that everyone is here for a specific purpose and for a special, everyone has their lesson to learn. One of the things that he says, and I'm going to just say it. One of the biggest things that he isn't sure he taught enough of is that you can help people to a certain extent, but you should never help them so much that you hinder their path, their journey. And he said, that's one of the big things. He said, they gave me I got my life review and it was good. He said, the first thing they did is show me where I did wrong. And I was like, oh, but I thought I did. And then just when I was like hopeless, they're like, hold on now, you haven't seen it all. He said, and then I was humbled by the good. It doesn't negate, but it outweighed. And he said, and I was privileged to be able to say, they told me my good outweighed my bad. And he said, that's the most you can do on life. But he said, the one thing in looking back at my life is I wish I had said, or I wish I had emphasized more that you want to uplift mankind, you want to uplift individuals, but you don't want to do so much for them that they aren't doing what they need to do to accomplish what they were sent for and what they chose to learn. Right. Don't hinder their journey.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. He's showing me the butterfly and the chrysalis, story, where the guy tries to help the butterfly get out of the chrysalis and cuts it open. And then the butterfly does the struggle of the getting out of the chrysalis, wipes off, helps it spread its wings. And by helping it, he actually hinders it. He's giving me that analogy. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm just chatting with him. I'm saying, I didn't think you did that. And he said, yeah, that's because you weren't with me all the time. He said, speak to Raphael. She'll tell you. My God, you are good. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the lives and I'm going to say thank you so much, Sandy. And we're just going to chat with the group now. Just tell people where they can find you. You are awesome. Look, I know so many mediums, being one myself, and I rarely ask another medium for help, right? But I asked you, Sandy. Few reasons, because we met and the whole Eris thing came up when we met. And yeah, I kind of wanted to get you out there because I think you're awesome, because she's kind of the reluctant, medium. She's sort of just a little hidden. So you're not hidden anymore. Yeah. But tell people how they can contact you. I don't think you've got a website yet, have you?
I don't have a website yet. The best way to reach me is through my Gmail, which is Sandy to connect Sandy F. So it's capital SANDY capital F to connect at gmail.com.
Right.
Pretty beautiful. Direct, huh?
Yeah. And if people on the group, you've got my email. If you don't remember, just email me and I'll put you in contact with Sandy if you want a reading. I'm sure there'll be people that want readings from you. So prepare to be busy, girl. And thank you, Shirley, for being brave enough to put your face on camera, and thanks everybody else for being brave enough.
I think you look beautiful.
Yeah, but stay online. I'm just going to stop the live and we'll just have a chat between us. So thanks everyone for listening to the live, and big love to you all.